So I'm 23, I'm from the UK. I run a faceless YouTube channel called Wi-Fi Uni with 25,000 subscribers, and it makes me around 2 grand a month. And today I want to make a bit of a bigger argument than I usually do, which is that I think faceless YouTube is genuinely the best business model available to my generation right now. And I want to explain exactly why I think that, because I don't think it's obvious, and I think most people my age are either not aware of it or are dismissing it without really thinking it through properly. Please excuse this AI slap voice. I promise the value in this video is worth it. So let me start with the context, because I think you need to understand what the alternatives look like before you can appreciate why faceless YouTube makes sense. And the context is basically that being 23 in the UK right now is a specific kind of difficult that I don't think older generations fully appreciate. The graduate job market is genuinely brutal. Like, you come out of university with a degree that cost you tens of thousands of pounds in student loans, and you're competing for entry-level jobs that pay 30 grand a year if you're lucky, in cities where renting a flat costs more than half of that. And the career ladder that previous generations were told to climb looks a lot less reliable than it used to. Like, the idea that you put your head down for 30 years and the company takes care of you has pretty much completely fallen apart. And I think most people my age know that, even if they don't say it out loud. And on top of that, there's this specific pressure that comes from growing up with social media, where you've watched people your age or younger build massive audiences and businesses online, and you know that's possible. You've seen it happen. But you don't necessarily know how to get there yourself, or which of the many options available actually makes sense to pursue. So that's the context. And against that backdrop, I want to explain why I think faceless YouTube specifically is the answer, or at least the best answer I've found. The first reason is that the startup cost is basically zero, and I think this matters more than people give it credit for. A lot of the business models people talk about online require either capital or risk upfront. Like, dropshipping requires you to spend money on ads before you know if anything is going to sell. An agency requires you to acquire clients, which takes time and often requires an existing reputation or network. A SaaS product requires either coding knowledge or money to hire someone. And even something like print on demand requires you to figure out a whole logistics and design piece before you see any return. Faceless YouTube requires a laptop, a microphone if you want to be serious about audio, and a subscription to an AI voiceover tool, which is a few dollars a month. And that's genuinely it. And what this means is that the downside, if it doesn't work, is almost nothing. You're not out thousands of pounds. You're not sitting on unsold inventory. You're not locked into some ongoing cost that you have to cover regardless of whether the channel is performing. You just stop posting and nothing bad happens. And the upside, if it does work, is an asset that compounds. Like, the videos you make today keep earning months and years later, and the channel grows in value the more content you add to it. And that asymmetry between basically zero downside and a meaningful upside is genuinely rare in any business model. The second reason is that it doesn't require you to build a personal brand or put yourself out there in the way that most online businesses do. And I think for my generation specifically, this is actually a bigger deal than it sounds. There's this massive pressure that comes with social media to present yourself in a certain way, to have a personal brand, to be on camera, to be charismatic and likable and relatable. And for a lot of people, that pressure is a genuine barrier to starting anything online. Like, they don't want to put their face on the internet. They don't want to deal with comments about how they look or sound. They don't want their professional life and their online life to be connected in a way that could cause problems later. Faceless YouTube removes all of that completely. And what this means in practice is that you can build something real and meaningful without any of that friction. The content stands on its own. The information is the thing, and nobody needs to know anything about you personally for the channel to work. And I think that's genuinely liberating in a way that's specific to this generation, because we've grown up watching what happens when people put themselves online without thinking about the consequences. I've done 50 plus sponsored videos. I've built a channel with 25,000 subscribers. I make 2 grand a month, and nobody watching knows what I look like. Nobody knows my full name. Nobody knows anything about me beyond what I choose to share. And the channel works completely fine. And that separation feels important to me. The third reason is the income model, and specifically that faceless YouTube in the right niche can stack multiple income streams in a way that most other business models can't. And I've talked about this in other videos, but I want to make the point specifically in the context of why it suits my generation. The thing about being 23 right now is that the traditional path of trading your time for a salary is increasingly a bad deal because salaries aren't keeping up with the cost of living, and the hours required at entry-level jobs to actually progress are significant, and you're building someone else's business, not your own. And the security that used to come with employment feels less guaranteed than it did for previous generations. Faceless YouTube lets you build something where the income isn't directly tied to your time in the same way. Like, I'm not paid per hour I spend on the channel. I'm paid based on what the channel has built up over time. And a video I made 6 months ago is still earning from affiliates today. And the school community I launched earns recurring revenue every month without me having to go out and earn it fresh. And sponsors pay me to make videos I was already going to make anyway. And none of that is possible with a salary. And it's also less risky than most other online business models because the channel itself is the asset and it just keeps growing as long as you keep posting. The fourth reason is that the AI tools available right now specifically make this model more accessible than it's ever been. And I think this is a window that won't be open forever. When I started Wi-Fi Uni 2 years ago, the AI voiceover technology was already good enough to make a faceless channel work. And it's got significantly better since then. And what this means is that the production barrier to making a decent faceless YouTube video is genuinely low. You don't need to be a skilled video editor, you don't need expensive equipment, you don't need a team. You can do the whole thing yourself with a reasonable time investment, and the output looks and sounds professional enough for the niche. And I think that window is specific to right now, because as more people figure this out and the tools become even more accessible, the barrier gets even lower, but the competition also increases. And the channels that have been posting consistently for a year or two will have such a head start in terms of back catalog and algorithm trust that starting later becomes progressively harder. So the advantage of starting now rather than waiting is real. And the last thing I want to say is that this model specifically suits the way my generation thinks about work and lifestyle, because it's not location dependent. It doesn't require you to be anywhere specific. I can run Wi-Fi Uni from anywhere with a Wi-Fi connection, and I have. And that flexibility is something that I think my generation values more than previous ones, because we've grown up watching remote work become normal, and we've seen that the 9 to 5 in an office isn't the only way to build a career. $2,000 a month at 23 from something I built from scratch with no connections and no starting capital that can be run from a laptop anywhere in the world in a niche I find genuinely interesting without putting my face or my name on the internet, with multiple income streams that compound over time rather than resetting every month, and with a real ceiling that grows every year as the channel grows. I genuinely cannot think of a better business model for someone my age right now. And I think the people who figure this out in the next year or two are going to look back on it the way people who started YouTube channels in 2015 or 2016 look back now, like they were early enough that the compounding had room to work properly. If you want to build something like this and want more direct help with the specifics, I do have a school community where I go through exactly how I think about all of this. Link is in the description. No pressure. Cheers for watching.